starting with 3.1, most of you did well on this section. There were some errors like not putting your solution. Remember, that's our entire goal, is to find a solution. So if you didn't put that, make sure you do that on the test. Also, these lines keep going on forever and ever in both directions, so they should have arrows. Kaylin. The test will replace it. Okay, so all of these were in slope-intercept form, so you didn't need to solve for them. You just needed to graph them. There were a few of you that mixed up your slopes, so remember it's always rise over run. Whatever this number is your up or down, and then the number in the denominator is your left or right. If you wanted to use two different colors, I meant to say this yesterday, but there are colored pencils in the colorful cart as well, so you can use those. As well as rulers, try to make your lines as straight as possible. So for this first one, we had a y-intercept of 3 and a slope of -1 over 3. So since it's negative, we can go down 1 and to the right 3. Or we can go up 1 and to the left 3. And then draw a line through those points. Remember, you should be filling up your graph with as many slope points as possible. For the second one, you had a y-intercept of -1 and a slope of -5 over 3. So in this case, I can't go down 5, but I can go up 5 and to the left 3 and draw that line. And then I can see where these two lines intersect at this one point. -3, 4. So that was your answer, your solution for that one. So those of you that did not get that correctly, make sure you're fixing it, writing the correct solution. Or those of you that were absent, make sure you're doing the same thing. For number 2, same process. Our y-intercept is at +3. Our slope is 1/3. We go up 1 to the right 3, and then down 1 to the left 3. And that's as far as I can go with that one. Now I can draw my line. You may have realized this without graphing them, but you still would have needed to graph them, that these two lines have the same slope but different y-intercepts, so they were going to be parallel lines, which means they would have no solution. Here, same slope, so go up 1, right 3, down 1, left 3. Mine look a little crooked, but they're supposed to be parallel. I have some. I Can you carry it?
Where do you want me to take it?
I really don't know where they go.
I was hoping I could leave it here.
Okay, that's fine.
I thought about that.
That's fine.
Sorry, guys.
No, you're good. So if you put parallel lines, that told me you kind of knew why they wouldn't cross, but not what the actual solution was. So make sure you're putting no solution, NS, the 0 with the line through it, any of those. Questions on those first two? I'm going to go down 2, 3, and 4. If you need me to go back, just let me know. For 3, this one had a y-intercept of -4 and a slope of -8. So we can go up 8 and to the left 1. So you would only have 2 points on that line. The other line, if you weren't sure, you could have wrote down your Hoyt-Rotz. This is a y equal, so it has to be a horizontal line. So at 4, when y is 4, you're going to draw a horizontal line through that point. And then the point where they cross would be this point right here. -1, well, +4. And then for the last one, this one has a y-intercept of -2, slope of 1/3. So I'm going to go up 1 to the right 3, down 1 to the left 3, and graph that line. And the other one had a y-intercept of +2 and a slope of -x, so you should have had a line going this way. Going up 1 to the left 1 as many times as possible, fill up your graph. And then down 1 and right 1 as many times as possible, filling up your graph. So the point these two cross or intersect at, and mine's a little off, but it should be 3, -1. Do we have any questions on how to solve systems by graphing? So main thing, make sure your slope is correct. You're plotting your points correctly all the way through. You have arrows and you put your solution. Okay. And now on to the back. There were a few of you that did really well, so everyone else should be paying attention. For these, each problem was worth 8 points. 2 for defining your variables correctly. 2 for setting up your equations correctly. 1 for how you started to solve it, however that was. 1 for that answer that you solved for with the correct units. And then the second solving method and that second correct answer. So if you did all of those things correctly, you got all 8 points for each problem. So for this one, we know we're traveling downstream. The boat went 21 miles per hour. Upstream, it went only 1. And we're looking for the current and the speed of the boat. So it doesn't say this, but it's talking about the current speed. So the two things we don't know are the current speed and the speed of the boat. So those would be your two variables. You could call them X and Y, C and B, whatever you want. So if you just put current, that doesn't tell me what exactly we need to know about the current, so make sure it's specific. And then downstream, the boat's going faster, so these two should be adding together. Upstream, the boat is not being pushed by the current anymore, so the current needs to be subtracted. Notice I said current needs to be subtracted, not the other way around. So if you subtracted the boat speed, that was incorrect. For the most part, I think most of you solved this by elimination. I think I saw 1 or 2 substitution. So majority of you solved this by elimination, so we'll do it that way. Again, it doesn't matter if you get rid of B or C first. If you get rid of B, you would be subtracting. If you get rid of C, you would be adding. So let's get rid of C. If you got rid of B and want to see that too, we can do that. So this would be 2B, C plus a negative would be 0. 21 plus, that's a parenthesis, 1 is 22. Now I can solve for B. And we need units. These are in miles per hour. So that was one of our answers. If you got the current was 11 miles per hour, remember that these should be regular situations where the boat or plane is moving faster than the current or wind speed. So that should have told you something is off, something is wrong. Then we can put that back into either of these and find our C. Which would give us 10 miles per hour. So you would have got a point for this and this. Setting these two up correctly, doing this work, getting this answer, doing this work, and getting this answer. Or if you solve by substitution, same process, but your work would just be a little different. Questions on that one? All of these were set up very similarly. If you need me to come back to that one, just let me know and I will. For the second one, they're talking about selling tickets. It says first day, second day, but that part doesn't really matter. We are comparing the 2 days, yes, but each day is going to have its own equation. So we need to know that they sold 11 tickets, 11 adult tickets, and 2 children tickets for that total. And then took in $295 by selling 9 adult and 14 tickets on the second day. It's asking us to find the price of an adult ticket and the price of a child ticket, so those are going to be our variables. You can say A and C, A and K, X and Y, whatever you want. I'll just put TX for tickets. So if you just put adult ticket, children ticket, that doesn't tell me is that the number of, the cost of, so be very specific. And then our two equations, we know our totals, 149 and 295. And we know for that first total, they sold 11 adult and 2 child, so we have to take those into account with the price. So 11 times the price plus 2 times the price would give us 149. And then the same thing for the 295, 9A plus 14C. Plus many of you sold this by elimination, but in various ways. Some of you got rid of A first. Some of you got rid of C first. Some of you just multiplied this first one by 7 so that they both equal 14. Some of you multiplied by 2 and 14. There were different things. All of those methods were fine as long as you did those correctly. I think the easiest of all of those was to multiply this first one by 7. Because I don't remember what it is. So 77A plus 14C is some number. $1,043. If we were getting rid of C, which in this case we are, these are both positive, so we can subtract. If you want to move them so that you're subtracting and don't get negatives, that's also fine. I'm not going to do that. So we'd have 9 minus 77. My brain is not working today. So negative 68. A plus 0 equals negative 748. Many of you did that the other way, so you got positive 68 and positive 748, which is fine. As long as you get a positive at the end, you were good. So that should have been $11 was our units there. And then you could put that back in to find the price of the trial tickets. Doesn't really matter where you put this. And then you could solve for C. So here I would subtract 99 to both sides. And divide. So C should have been $14. Do we have any questions on that one? Sure.
I don't know the 7 at the top.
So that one you kind of have to come up with. You're trying to make the coefficients the same. So if I want to make this the same as 14, I would need to multiply this by 7, but I can't just multiply this one piece, I have to do it to everything. So if I multiply everything by 7, this becomes 14, which is what I want. But you kind of have to make it up.
Yeah.
Any other questions on that one? The last one, what should be set up very similarly, is just the wording is a little weird. So here, what's really important here is that at high school A, they rented and filled 3 vans, 7 buses with 187 students. High school B rented and filled 12 vans, 1 bus with 154 students. Kind of important that each van and each bus carry the same number of students, not like the van and bus together both carry the same, but like each van carry the same and each bus carry the same. And we're looking for the number of students in each van and each bus. So those would be your 2 variables. I think I used B and B. If you use X and Y, that was also fine. But this needed to be the number of students in each van and bus. If you just say students in van, students in bus, you don't really know if you're talking about number, or you're talking about characteristics. It could be anything. To be very specific. So to set these 2 equations up, we would take the number of vans, the number of students in each van, and then the number of buses and the number of students in each bus, multiply those together, add them together, and get 187 and 154. So 3B plus 7B equals 187. 12B plus 1B equals 154. I saw a few substitutions with this one and some eliminations with this one. It was, again, really up to you, but just so you see a different way, we're going to do this one by substitution. Because of this 1B, I could easily rearrange this to subtract 12B to the other side to get B equals 154 minus 12B. Once we have that equation, we can take it, put it in the other one. So that would become 3B plus 7 times 154 minus 12B. And we could solve for V. And then when I combine my like terms, I have negative 81. And I can still continue to solve for V. And divide. So V should have been 11. So your units was number of students, so you could say 11 students. You could be more specific and say 11 students in the van. After we find B, we can go back, put that into our equation for B and solve. I'm going to cover this up for just a minute. So 11 students and 22 students should have been your answers there. And in questions like that, it kind of makes sense that the bus would have more, because you think about like travel buses usually have more seats than like a van. So that should be more than the van. Do we have any questions on that problem? For the remainder of class, you have that quick check, which is just word problems. Ignore number, one of them is weird, 3 on that one. If you do that, you have the review that you can be working through. You have your notes, so you could go back and do more word problems in the notes. You have your Khan Academy on systems of word problems that was already due, but you can still go back and redo it or do it. As well as the Delta Math that was already due, was due yesterday. But you can still work on it. So, or previous Khan Academy Delta Math. So you have plenty of things to be working on. Yeah, give me 1 second. Anyone have any questions on what we're doing for the remainder of class? Be working on something math related as your test is tomorrow on those 2 objectives. That way you get that practice.